Restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
The Troubadour Hotel New Orleans Tapestry Collection by Hilton, located in the New Orleans CBD, has luxurious finishes to complement the professional and an exquisite view of the New Orleans skyline for impressing clients and colleagues at the rooftop bar. Right now, the Troubadour Hotel is offering 1,000 Hilton Honors Points per night with their grand opening offer, valid now through April 30th. The Troubadour Hotel. Respite from the mundane. It's anything but generic. Visit them online today at thetroubadour.com.
For game-changing innovation, look to the Latrim family of companies located in Harahan. Intralocks, a Latrim company, changed the game when they invented modular plastic conveyor belts over 40 years ago. These belts and innovative Intralocks technology are transforming movement in manufacturing facilities around the world. Intralocks is a dynamic global company now hiring in production, warehousing, shipping, and more. If you want to be part of our successful team, visit Latrim.com. That's LAITRAM.com.
The 2018 Kids' Choice Awards were handed out Saturday at the Forum in Inglewood, California. John Cena kicked off the event with a nod to the March for Our Lives rallies that took place across the country. He said, "I know it's going to be an amazing night, but kids everywhere have already made it an amazing day." In fact, most of the stars who took to the stage gave a shout-out to the student-led demonstrations. Actress Millie Bobby Brown sported a shirt with the names of all 17 victims of the Parkland, Florida massacre as she accepted the night's first award, Favorite TV Actress, for her role as Eleven on the Netflix hit Stranger Things. Some A-list entertainers came out in support of the hundreds of thousands of people who took part in Saturday's March for Our Lives rally in D.C. Lin-Manuel Miranda and Ben Platt delivered an emotional rendition of Found Tonight, their mashup of ballads from the Broadway hits Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen.
Tomorrow there'll be more of us telling the story of tonight.
Other stars that performed included Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, Ariana Grande, Jennifer Hudson, and Common. The Stoneman Douglas Drama Club also performed a new song that they had written just days after the shooting. And more than half of all U.S. homes subscribe to at least one video streaming service, such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu. That's according to a new Digital Trends media survey from Deloitte, which found 55% of homes have a subscription. In fact, the percentage of consumers subscribing to a paid streaming service has surged 450% in less than a decade. That's entertainment. Mark Mayfield, NBC News Radio.
Let's go Relay! Join Relay for Life and help us beat our biggest rival, cancer. Sign up today at relayforlife.org and help us attack cancer in our community.
Happy Monday, everyone. Duncan Holder back at you on March 26th after an epic weekend in New Orleans. Big weekend sports-wise. We are back in the saddle today. Jeff Duncan with you alongside Clyde Verdun and David DeCorbier. My co-host Larry Holder is down in Orlando, Florida at the NFL owners meetings, and that'll be a big theme for our show today. The NFL owners meetings kicking off in Orlando, Florida, and Larry Holder is going to give us a report here in about 15 minutes or so from Orlando on the goings-on around the NFL owners meetings. He's had a number of reports already at NOLA.com, and we'll hear from Larry and Sean Fazand of Fox 8 in the second hour from the NFL owners meetings. But first, before we look ahead and currently talk about some of the news of the day, I want to look back a little bit, Clyde, because it was a big weekend in New Orleans, sports-wise.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to talk about the funeral for Tom Benson on Friday that I had to leave the show early on Friday to go attend. And it was an epic event. I mean, it was televised live all over the city. And a historic occasion, beautiful ceremony, the Mass, of course, at St. Louis Cathedral, where Tom Benson met his wife, Gail Benson, about 14 years ago. And a star-studded cast. I don't know if we'll ever see a funeral procession like we saw on Friday, at least sports-wise.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Alvin Gentry, Del Demps, a number of Jim Taylor was there, Hall of Famer, David Baker. There were 5 commissioners, the current NBA and NFL commissioners, along with their predecessors from the from the NFL and NBA, and wow, what a show it was. And they sent Tom Benson off the right way and laid him to rest with the proper respect and dignity he deserved.
Yeah, I think your piece to end it last on Friday really kind of, I think, summarized the opulence of it, the reverence of it, the just the magnitude that it seemed like everything gravitationally was pulling towards St. Louis Cathedral on Friday. It just seemed like regardless of what was going on in the city, and granted, there are a lot of things going on in the city. There are a lot of people in the city, spring break, people who had no idea. But even then, I think that they knew that something was going on downtown, that even if they didn't know who Tom Benson was, they knew that there was some kind of gravitational force pull towards the French Quarter on Friday. And you're right. The likes of as Leroy Glover said, a celebration of life, not, it's not a sorrowful time. It's a time to really reflect and celebrate somebody's life who did so much for so many. The likes of this, which we will probably never see again in our lifetime. I mean, just because of who Tom Benson was, what he did, what he touched, and how long he was on this earth, I think it's going to be hard to top.
Yeah, it was a crazy scene. It felt a little like a tailgate on a Sunday Saints game before the event. And then as the Mass was going on inside St. Louis Cathedral, the second line preparations all started to kind of take place with some of the brass bands. They had the Storyville Stompers. They had a couple of marching clubs, and brought in this beautiful horse-drawn carriage.
Yeah, it was
hearse.
amazing.
Yeah,
oh my goodness, that was amazing.
And it was a spectacular scene. And I jumped into the second line as it went down the 4 blocks to the Ursuline Convent, and kind of walked around with Sean Payton for a little while, and then went over to David Baker and Paul Tagliabue, former NFL commissioner. David Baker, the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and they were eating it up. They'd never seen anything like it. And the way these second lines work for a funeral procession, I had not been in one for a jazz funeral. They start out very, understandably so, very somber. They're playing funeral dirges immediately at the start of the second line. And then as it progresses and proceeds away from the church, the music starts to become more celebratory. And you're right, it turns into a celebration of life,
right?
Probably a couple blocks away, and next thing you know, they're playing When the Saints Go Marching In. Fans are waving. People were on balconies. The streets were lined. And Paul Tagliabue and David Baker, I specifically wanted to talk with them because neither one of them is from New Orleans.
Yeah.
David Baker's a California native. Paul Tagliabue's from the Northeast. And they're not exactly the most, outgoing guys. Well, David Baker is pretty outgoing, but Paul Tagliabue's an attorney, pretty reserved guy, but he was beaming, smiling, had his phone out, was recording it all, like selfies, taking photos with fans. So it was really neat, unique New Orleans experience. And afterward, they just couldn't get over what that experience was like for them. Really, the second line proved to be kind of the highlight of the day. And I talked to a number of people that in these brass bands that play, the Storyville Stompers they played for Pete Fountain's second line, Paul Prudhomme, Fats Domino, a lot of these iconic people we've lost in New Orleans in the last 3 or 4 years. We've lost a lot of our cultural icons.
Yeah.
And Tom Benson is, of course, among them. And when you think of sports, you think of Tom Benson, some of the musical icons we lost, Fats Domino, Alan Toussaint, Coco Robichaux, and, of course, Paul Prudhomme in the food world. We've lost a lot in the last few years, and we send people off the right way here. We bury our dead differently than any other city in America.
Yeah.
So it was a really unique event. And I wanted to kind of touch on that early on in the programs as we turn the page, and we'll go into some more current events when we hear from Larry and Sean from the NFL owners meetings, because this will be the first time that Gail Benson talks as the Saints owner, and she is the Saints owner now. It is her teams. The Pelicans and Saints are hers. She's representing the Saints now at the owners meetings, and she's going to meet the local media. I'm sure there'll be some national media there as well at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando for the first time as the Saints owner. So we'll talk to Larry about that. I think he's going to actually get a chance to talk to her after he comes on the program here in about 5 minutes. But he also will visit us tomorrow as well from Orlando. And there's a lot of news that will be generated from Orlando. Larry already has a piece up saying that the Saints remain interested in Ndamukong Suh. They're among 3 suitors for him. It looks like the Jets have pulled out of that competition. So it really is down to the Rams, Titans, and Saints, and it sounds like the Rams are the team to beat. Larry reported that, but the Saints are still in the mix. And I'll be interested to see how that plays out because it's gone on now for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It seems like he's waiting on.
And it seems like every time we get closer to him possibly making a decision, he's another report comes out that he's taking another visit. He's going somewhere else this time, and then the Jets emerge as a front runner. Then they pull out and or rescind the offer. And it seems like every time we get close to this being over, something else comes up. And now specifically with the fact that it's back to 3 teams and the fact that the Rams are quote-unquote the favorite to land the signature, it's just all – eventually it's going to end. Thankfully it's going to end. He's going to sign with somebody and our long national nightmare will be over.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the Pelicans, of course, took it on the chin on Saturday night. We kind of expected that playing at Houston, the best team in the league. I don't think there's any doubt about it right now that Houston's the best team in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And that was going to be a tough assignment regardless, but they kind of almost rested. After that crazy week where they won all those games in a row, I think Alvin Gentry was trying to preserve, thinking big picture, pulled a lot of his starters there when things got out of hand. Pelicans back in action here in New Orleans. Huge game on Tuesday night against the Portland Trail Blazers. And then I think they go – where do they go after that? Do you know? I know that
I'm pulling the schedule right now.
They're back home Sunday against the Thunder. I think they go to Cleveland, right?
I think Cleveland is up close here on this stretch because we were talking about it last week. We were talking about the games that to really circle because of how dicey it is in terms of the teams that the Pelicans will have to play with a lot of star power, even though we were just talking before in air. We were just talking about the Warriors and how the Warriors are going through a little bit of a slump right now, seeing as how it looks like Steph Curry with that MCL sprain is going to be out for the rest of the regular season and could be out for much of the, if not all, of the first round of the playoffs for the Warriors. And that could be huge, specifically going after they get trounced by the Jazz last night. But you're right, Jeff. It's the Trailblazers on Tuesday, 7 o'clock here, Smooth King Center. Then they're on the road Friday at the Cavs, and then they're back home to take on the Thunder on Sunday, and then the atrociously bad tanking Grizzlies, who are setting records for how bad they're going to beat so far at the end of the season.
I think you, me, Dave, Larry, we could pick up a 5th. I think we could take the Grizzlies right now. I mean, they're embarrassing. They're in full-scale tank job.
Yeah.
But still, you got to take care of business. It'll be a chance for them maybe to catch their breath after this tough stretch. And one other thing I wanted to bring up before we go to a break here, our first break, our poll question of the day. Some news out of the owners' meetings from the New York Giants. Some trade speculation going out that the Giants might have Odell Beckham Jr. on the trade block. They met, some of the officials from the Giants said that basically in no uncertain terms that nobody on the roster is off the market. Anybody is tradable, and we know that they've had some issues there with a contract, long-term contract for Odell Beckham Jr. There's a report out there that says he will not report to the Giants' training camp or any of their off-season issues until he gets a contract. So things could be falling apart between Odell Beckham Jr. and the Giants. And we ask, why don't you tell the listeners what our question, our Duncan Holder poll question of the day is, because I think it's pretty compelling.
Yep. So with this talk that we talked about through text today, we decided to do a poll. So if you're following us on Twitter, at Duncan Holder on Twitter, the question today is very simple. With the 10 times of the Big Apple and talk about his future with the Giants, should the Saints try to land Odell Beckham Jr.? 4 options here for today's poll. Absolutely, yes, but at a good price. Skeptical, not worth it. So far, and you've got an hour plus, we're going to do this to the end of the show. So right now, so far, 35% of voters are saying it's not worth it. 27% of poll voters say yes, but at a good price. 23% say absolutely, and 15% say skeptical. And on that, Jeff, friend of the show and or I don't know if I can say avid listener, but possibly, I mean, if he's listening in the Big Apple, but Kevin Manahan quote tweeted us and said, "We'll trade you Beckham straight up for Commander's Palace."
I think Saints fans would do that in a heartbeat. Well, maybe not all of them. The food-loving Saints fans.
Yeah, but say the
wouldn't wanna do it.
food-loving Saints fans that love Commander's Palace, that's going to be a tough one. We may have to work out some details and maybe some cash considerations.
Yeah, I personally will weigh in on what I think of that in a column this week, but also here on the show I'll ask Larry Holder about that, and we'll hear from Larry Holder after this break coming up from Orlando. He's going to give us a report from the NFL owners' meetings at the Ritz-Carlton in the Sunshine State. So stay with us. You're listening to Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We'll be right back.
You're invited to the Walter Johnson Crawfish Boil, March 31st. Starts about 2 in the afternoon at Southport Hall.
Crawfish from NOLA boils, and music from or info at WRNO.com or Facebook.com/995 WRNO.
Sponsored by Chauvin Brothers Tractor.
Stop into Lowe's Spring Black Friday event, where you'll find savings on those projects popping up on your to-do list, like taking care of those uninvited weeds and insects. Get a free refill with purchase of Roundup Max Control Weed Killer with Wand. And buy Ortho Home Defense Extended Reach Insect Killer with Comfort Wand and also get a refill free. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through March 28th while supplies last. See store for details, U.S. only.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we put a little extra heart into everything we do, like actively looking to save you money. Generics, 90-day refills, even rewards. Get a $5 Target coupon for every 10 prescriptions. On your next Target run, stop by CVS Pharmacy. We're the place with the big heart. Not valid on all prescriptions, including those purchased in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Other restrictions apply. See cvs.com/extracare-target or the pharmacy for details. CVS Pharmacy at Target. Health is everything.
Mr. Red's Seafood and Italian Restaurant, serving the best fried chicken in town. Fresh Louisiana seafood as well as delicious Italian dishes. Try our daily chef specials or an overstuffed po' boy. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. with 2 locations to serve you. In Bucktown at 1001 Live Oak between Bonneville and Lake Avenue, or in Kenner at 910 West Esplanade at Chateau Boulevard. Let Mr. Ed's cater your next event. Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant. 2 great locations, 1 great menu. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House, now open in the quarter 7 days a week at 512 Bienville.
I'm Dave Marley, president of Marley Drug. Are you taking Viagra? Now you can get sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $50 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For more information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That's 800-853-6375.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Claude Verdun, David Corbier at the iHeart Studios in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana. Dunc and Holder on Monday, March 26th. And we are joined now by our cohort in crime, Larry Holder, who's probably sitting out by a pool somewhere with one of those drinks with an umbrella in it. Probably got a Hawaiian shirt on, I'm guessing, acting like he's actually working, but we all know better. What's going on, Sir Lawrence? How you doing down there, buddy?
I am watching the Monday night annual owners meeting party being set up. Mm-hmm. So I'm close to potentially not working, but yeah, NFL owners meetings are in effect. Of course, we are going to be able to talk with Sean Payton tomorrow, but today, later on this afternoon, actually, we are going to be able to chat with Gail Benson, which should be an interesting conversation. First time she's going to be at these owners' meetings as the owner of the Saints, and first time I know she's going to be talking publicly. So, that should be an interesting day here in Orlando.
Yeah, Larry, so for people that aren't familiar, I mean, this is the big meeting. You always hear these terms, NFL owners meetings. There's usually one later on in the spring, and there's one in the fall, sometimes one in the summer. But this is the big meeting. It's the one that is kind of compulsory. Everybody has to be down at this one. A lot of league rules are established here by the competition committee at this meeting every year. Do you know who is down from the Saints contingent at this meeting?
Oh, yeah. Basically, everybody you would imagine. Gail Benson's here, Dennis Lausch, Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton, Greg Bensel's here. And so, yeah, it's the who's who of the Saints. And, yeah, you're going to do a lot of, meetings as far as rules. And Sean Payton is his first year on that competition committee, so he kind of gets a say-so as far as potential rule changes and some suggestions. And I was able to catch up with him last night, and he had some fresh ideas that he wants to implement. I don't know if they'll ever get implemented. One of the ideas he brought up was instead of having a play call sheet, the play caller can actually have a tablet. And we were kind of joking, you know how he has the old man Pawpaw Sean Payton glasses, and it's easier for me to read, so he doesn't have to wear the old man glasses anymore. And then I joked, I was like, poor Kevin, the cord guy, is going to have to lug that thing around, and that's just one other responsibility he's going to have.
Yeah, and I could see that being the way we go here as we get into the digital age. Makes a lot of sense instead of having these menu-like printouts of play sheets. But you had a report today that I thought was really interesting, that the Saints remain interested in Ndamukong Suh. I think a lot of people, we get those questions all the time. I'm sure you get them. I get them on the street from people wanting to know where things stand. What's the latest on the Saints' interest in Suh?
Yeah, there's still interest, but as I put it in the story this morning, that it's basically they're in wait-and-see mode. Their strategy with this is going to be no different than it was with Jimmy Graham, no different than what it was, say, with Muhammad Wilkerson or maybe a Malcolm Butler we talked about. I think they've got a set price, and they're not going to venture too much higher. And look, the big story that came out, I was not around, Christopher Johnson of the Jets. I think he's the son of Woody Johnson, so he's basically, part of ownership, saying that they rescinded their offer to Ndamukong Suh. And so that kind of sent a little shockwave around here because it takes away any of his negotiating power. And I know this morning, Ian Rappaport reporting that the Rams are the front runners, which that's the sense I get. So basically that's why the Saints are just kind of waiting back and seeing to see what they can do with Suh. So, if you're going to ask me, do I think Suh is going to end up with the Saints? I'd say probably not, but the interest still remains. But it's always got to be at the right price because they're not going to jump into some giant bidding war. They're probably pretty firm on where they are, and I don't think they're going to up their offer to him. At least not a massive up in the offer that they have on the table probably right now.
Well, Larry, what does it say about this entire process as a whole? Knowing that. It's like, Jeff and I talked about before you came on, it seems like every time it looks like this process is about to end, there's another team that gets rumored involved, taking another visit, and then something else happens. Obviously this is one of, as we talked about last week with some of our guests with Albert Breer, if it's one of the biggest fish in the pond that people are willing to do or willing to go out and get, what does that say about the entire process about free agency so far this spring going into the draft in April?
Well, as far as the process, say, with Suh, I think there's people that are leery and they don't want to spend the big money on him. And so as far as the Saints process of what they're doing, they've been measured. And they're not going to change that. And look, they've gotten some nice pieces, but they're not going to change their way. And as far as with Suh, he's certainly seemingly looking to still cash in. And I don't think teams are ready to do that at this point. And there are a lot of teams that he's talked to, say the Rams and the Titans, they have significant cap space to do it. The Jets have significant cap space, but it seems like everybody's kind of playing a game of chicken with him, and the people aren't ready to dive all in. I mean, because, look, he comes with baggage. I mean, he could be a good player, but is he as good as he was? And do you want to put up with the headache and the baggage? I think that's the ultimate question that everyone's basically asking themselves here.
Speaking of talented players that can create some headaches for their teams, Odell Beckham Jr., some news coming out of the NFL owners' meetings. John Mara said, quote, "I'm tired of answering questions about Odell's behavior. He knows what is expected of him, and now it's up to him." End quote. Sounds to me like there's possibility that they could be having a divorce up there. Do you think it's possible that the Saints would entertain any kind of trade talks with the Giants over Odell Beckham Jr.? Is that crazy talk?
I don't think it's crazy talk. And, yeah, I literally, as soon as I got here to the owners' meeting yesterday, I literally ran into John Mara as he was saying that. So we were able to get this video up on NOLA.com of him talking about that. And so do I think it's crazy? No, I don't think it would be totally crazy and off the wall. The problem is he's going into the last year of his deal. And, I mean, would you trade for a guy for 1 year and then re-up him massive, big-time money that he's going to be looking for, and then you got to pay Michael Thomas? So, I think the Saints know they have a number one receiver. But you could tell, John Mara seems fed up just from having people ask him about it nonstop, and it was a barrage of questions. But, Odell's put himself in some bad situations. I know that what's the video that surfaced that's floating around? I don't even know what it is. And then all the other headaches and injuries and just, issues off the field as far as image and that sort of thing. So, I think you could potentially see a divorce. And then I'm seeing just reports stemming from after what John Mara said about, Odell's not going to get on the field unless he has a contract extension. He doesn't want to play basically his final year without another deal in hand. And so, yeah, I think you're playing a little bit of game of chicken, and yet, is it crazy talk for the Saints? I don't think it's they probably they're exploring everything and with bigger names. But I mean, do I see that happening? I don't know. I'd be a little surprised if it did for the Saints.
So what do you want to hear from Gail Benson today? Like, what in particular do you think? Are you just going to kind of play it by ear and see where the interview goes today? I'm curious to know, like, what is she going to make statements? Do you know anything about her first meeting with the press as Saints owner?
Yeah, I think all of us here, and because she's speaking, I mean, it's the large contingent that's not normally at an owners meeting. Usually it's me and another reporter, and that's it. But now everybody came this year, so I don't know what to expect, to be quite honest with you, because I don't know. We don't know her exact involvement with everything at this rate. So I think probably learning that, and I'm curious just to see how she's handling being here as now the owner, and it's something that she's prepared for. I mean, because every year she's at these owners meetings, and then ever since 2015, when Tom announced the switch in the succession plan, Gail was coming here just as an owner's wife, but from there on, she's been going to these meetings. I know she's in meetings right now, and she's going to be in meetings this afternoon. So she's involved. Look, she's an owner, and I'm just curious to see just how hands-on she might be, because, look, there's a lot of the assumption out there that, Gail's the figurehead, and you have Dennis Lauscha and Mickey Loomis and, all the brass that have been there for years and years to help this thing grow. They're going to play a heavy role, but I'm just curious just to see almost just kind of how assertive she is with some of this stuff. I'm curious to see, because I've never talked to her. We've never talked to her about the actual ownership of this whole thing.
And you had a report yesterday, Larry, that in his address on welcoming the owners on Sunday night, I guess it is, Roger Goodell got even choked up talking about Tom Benson. What were you able to gather about that address that Roger Goodell had with the NFL ownership about Tom Benson?
Yeah, he stood up, he do the usual address because on the first night, every Sunday night of these spring owners meetings, there's a big dinner and reception afterwards, and everybody goes. And so, Roger stands up, and they start talking some things. And then, early on while he was up there, they showed a picture of Tom Benson, and he was just trying to say, the value to the league, and he was just, the term I was told is he was getting choked up and had trouble going on because he was, talking about the passing of Tom Benson. And look, he saw it firsthand, going to the funeral and going to the St. Louis Cathedral and doing the second line and all that stuff. I think maybe him being a part of that maybe moved him a little more. So, and look, we know that they've had some checkered past. I mean, the bounty scandal, first and foremost, but it's seemingly, at least on the ownership, the top of the mountain, that they were able to get past that. And, but no, Roger Goodell, was giving a moving speech and had trouble getting through it. And so, I think it was well received by the Saints organization.
That's our Larry Holder of Dunc and Holder fame. Larry, are you going to be able to check in with us tomorrow or not, or are you going to be tied up with all the Sean Payton stuff in the morning?
I'll definitely be able to check in because Sean Payton will be speaking at 6:15 a.m. Central.
Whoa.
And we will have the live updates on NOLA.com and he speaks for an hour. So I'll be typing away while most of you guys are sleeping. So I will certainly be able to jump on the show tomorrow. So all good.
All right, well, take it easy now tonight at that reception. I know that thing usually can get a little crazy, and you got early morning tomorrow. So
Thanks, Dad. I appreciate it.
Lay off the umbrella drinks.
Get hammered, Larry.
Oh well, if you ask the Saints, they're looking around for Dixie Light, so maybe they'll have those here.
All right. Thanks, Sir Lawrence. We appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Yep,
that's Larry Holder of Dunc and Holder fame, calling in from Orlando at the NFL owners meetings. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll discuss this Odell Beckham Jr. conundrum and whether the Saints should throw their hat in the ring and bring in OBJ back home to New Orleans. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Holiday Inn West Bank.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today for your Monday, a little light fog to start, but then by midday, we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures warming up to near 80 to 81. Tonight, overnight lows in the low to mid 60s with some light patchy fog. Tomorrow on Tuesday, partly to mostly cloudy, the high near 80. Wednesday will bring in a slight chance of rain at about 20 to 30%. That'll be late. And Thursday looks to be the wet weather day as rain chances go up. Highs in the 70s, overnight lows in the mid-60s. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Enjoy a breathtaking view of the New Orleans skyline and the mighty Mississippi River from the top of the Holiday Inn West Bank Tower. Events catered by the Roundhouse Bar and Grill offer your favorite local dishes. Swing by the Holiday Inn West Bank to meet the team and reserve your special day.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hey, Jamie, it's me, Jamie. This is your daily talk. I know it's been rough going ever since people found out about your a cappella group, Mad Harmony, but you will bounce back. I mean, you're the guy always helping people find coverage options with the Name Your Price tool. It should be you giving me the pep talk. Now get out there, hit that high note, and take Mad Harmony all the way to nationals this year! Sorry, it's pitchy.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Craigslist is eliminating its personal section. The move comes after the Senate approved legislation that adds tougher penalties on web services that help facilitate prostitution or sex trafficking. Craigslist says the new legislation could potentially leave its site liable for penalties. Reddit also announced changes made to its content policy, forbidding transactions for certain goods and services. Nissan says it wants to sell approximately 1 million electrified vehicles every year by 2022. The new initiative is called Move to 2022 and includes launching 8 new battery electric cars and equip 20 models in 20 markets with semi-autonomous driving tech in that same time frame. The HBO show Silicon Valley is getting the VR treatment. The experience will be available on the HTC Vive and will offer users more than 700 virtual reality experiences, from playing foosball to taking bong rips inside the same house where the cast has lived and worked to build their company for the past 5 years. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
I'm feeling sexy and free.
Whether you bless those boys or take flight, we're talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Jeff Duncan Holder alongside Clabberdan, Dave DeCorbier, and we were talking New Orleans Saints. But before we get into this question about Odell Beckham Jr., let's just talk quickly about the Final Four. I should have mentioned that at the top of the hour. We've established the Final Four now, and it's 3 Blue Bloods, Villanova, Kansas, Michigan, and Cinderella. The Loyola, Chicago, what are their nickname?
The Ramblers.
The Ramblers. Can you believe that story? That's one of the best stories in sports. It's what makes the Final Four, the NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness, so special. You just don't get this in football. It can't happen. Football is a numbers game. The small schools just can't compete, but that's what makes the NCAA tournament so special. And is it Sister Jean?
Sister Jean, yeah.
They're actually selling, have you seen this? They're selling bobbleheads.
And they're selling socks.
I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, they're selling socks with their likeness on it. It's quite cool. And as she'll tell you, the thing that she gave up for Lent was losing. So she obviously, her and the Lord are like this right now.
I love it. It's a great story, and my goodness, if Loyola gets in the championship game, it'll be the biggest story we've had in the tournament in a while. I mean, going back, who got in there a few years ago?
Obviously, you got to talk about. I mean, at this point, we're talking about. Well, I mean, honestly, and I was actually talking about this with a friend yesterday. I don't know if you can consider Gonzaga. I mean, you can consider Gonzaga a mid-major, but the way they recruit, the way Mark Few has had that program running, the fact that they haven't won a championship it means that they're getting closer. They're knocking on the door. But I mean, I would equate this Loyola Chicago. I would equate it to Butler a few years back.
That's what I was thinking.
I would go back to Butler. I'd go back to VCU. Shaka Smart's VCU crew, George Mason, a lot of those really power mid majors. But I was talking to a friend though. The Missouri Valley had the 8th best RPI in the country, and that's better than like big major conference RPIs. Which I know we talk about the RPI here a lot, but like every conference also has an RPI ranking. So you go from 1 through all the different conferences. So you have the ACC at 1, you'll have the Big 12, or you have the SEC, and then like they'll rank them by strength of schedule, win-loss, how many other quadrant 1, quadrant 2 teams you played, and all that kind of stuff. It's really kind of neat. But the Missouri Valley, which they won the regular season and tournament title, was the 8th strongest conference in the country. That's huge, because that means not only are they playing quality teams out of conference, including beating Florida, it means that they're still only getting enough respect of saying, oh, you play in the Missouri Valley, a Missouri Valley that doesn't have Wichita State anymore. If you don't win your regular season and your tournament title, you're probably not in the NCAA tournament. And now look where they are. Yeah,
it's been an incredible story. And, that game yesterday between Kansas and Duke, 2 of the Blue Bloods went to overtime. Incredibly well-played game. Very exciting. A lot of drama there. And the women's Final Four, half of the bracket has been determined. The mighty Louisville Cardinals are in the Final Four.
I knew you were going to work that in.
And they will play, unfortunately for us, Mississippi State, who has been our nemesis. I say our because that is my alma mater. But Mississippi State, Clyde, has ended Louisville's football season with a win in the Citrus Bowl, I believe it was. No, it wasn't the Citrus Bowl. I'm trying to think of what bowl it was in. I can't remember.
That was a Belk Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah, it might have been the Belk Bowl. And then they, of course, ended Louisville's men's basketball team's season in the NIT, and now their women have a chance to end Louisville's season in the Final Four. I hope Louisville can turn the tables on them. And the other
Louisville has a great team.
Yeah, Louisville's strong this year. The other 2 finalists will be determined tonight. UConn plays South Carolina.
I would encourage anybody who likes college basketball or college sports to watch that. I don't care whether or not you don't like women's basketball, you don't like the game. This is going to be an absolute slugfest. UConn is on a mission to win the title. South Carolina, this is literally probably one of their last shots to actually get back to the Final Four. They're going to go through some turnover next year. This is the game to watch.
And the other game, of course, will be Notre Dame against Oregon. So not a lot of upsets in the women's side of things. There's a lot more parity in men's basketball than women's.
Well, I mean, there was
all
a lot
number
of
1 seeds.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of movement though before this, because I mean, obviously we're talking about the Elite 8 now and going to the Final Four, but we're not talking about a Buffalo team that was the 11 seed that knocked off USF, the 6th seed. Then they knocked off Florida State in Florida State, and then just lost to South Carolina 79-63. They were the 11 seed, and then that's not talking about Central Michigan. Central Michigan was the 11 seed out of the MAC. They beat a number 6 LSU team in Columbus. Then on their pseudo home court, because the women's Final Four and championship game is in Columbus. In Columbus, Central Michigan beat Ohio State and beat one of the best players in the country, one of the top scorers in the country on their home floor, 95-78. And then they had to go play Oregon, and Oregon has one of the best players in the country in Sabrina Ionescu, who is a triple-double machine. So,
man, you are fluent in women's college basketball. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try to, I talk. If you're going to talk sports for a living, you want to be well-versed, right?
Yeah, I'm glad that we got you on there to talk about that, because I'm just now familiarizing myself. Obviously, it looks like it's going to be a lot of chalk in this Final Four for the women. The men actually kind of went according to form, except for that crazy Loyola bracket, that regional. And some news, kind of sad news or disappointing news out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Former LSU standout Albert Bell was arrested. I don't know if anybody saw this story that's coming out this morning, but he was arrested with a couple of counts of DUI and indecent exposure. A really bizarre story and a sad story for Albert Bell, the former LSU Tiger, a great player in Major League Baseball for a while. That story I'm sure we'll hear more from in the days ahead, but Albert Bell getting arrested, so I wanted to touch on that. And look, we didn't get into the Odell Beckham Jr. thing. Let's take another break real quick and come back and touch on Odell Beckham Jr. because I think fans will be interested. Sounds like we've already got a lot of response.
Yeah, we're at 237 votes so far. So I'll update the tally when we come back. But it's interesting because I'm also going to relay a story in the next after we come back from break about Odell. That's kind of highlights in my mind the differences between self-awareness and maybe a little obliviousness when it comes to where you want to get to as a professional athlete, because it's already hard enough as it is, but there's certain licenses and certain things that come along with that. That means that you're not as normal as other people are. It means that you can't sometimes do the things that other quote-unquote kids your age are doing. And it kind of goes and delves into the whole aspect of being a professional athlete in 2018 and how that's a little bit more, there's a lot more pitfalls along the road to success and to fame than there were maybe, 20, 30 years ago, such as with a player like Albert Bell, because Albert Bell's pitfalls are well known, and this is before the age of Twitter, before the age of Facebook and social media. So it's interesting to see, because we talk about Albert Bell, and then we're about to talk about another former LSU athlete and some of the pitfalls and trials and tribulations he's currently dealing with.
No doubt about it. What do you think? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to call and participate in the program, we'd love to hear what you think about the potential of the Saints getting involved in trade talks for Odell Beckham Jr. Would you like to see it? Would you stay away from him at all costs, or maybe at the right price? We've got a lot of different options there. I'd be eager to hear what you have to say. So if you want to join the program, it's 504-260-1280. And we'll take a break, and we'll come back and continue this conversation about Odell Beckham Jr. and potentially the New Orleans Saints getting involved in trade talks to get him here back in New Orleans. We'll see. You're listening to Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
With up to 16 chances a day, every weekday to win $1,000. A smart move would be to listen.
I'm a smart speaker, and I agree.
The keyword to text and win comes at the top of the hour.
The smart money is on.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
You'll never forget your first car, and you'll never forget your first car wreck. When this happens to you, you need an attorney who can help you get your car fixed, help get you the medical attention you need, and help get you all the money you deserve. Don't deal with the insurance companies without an attorney. They have teams of lawyers and adjusters trying to pay you as little as possible for your injuries. If you're in a wreck and you need a check, call Mike Brander today. We'll work hard to get you all the money you deserve and keep you out of court.
Hurt in the wreck, Mike Brander's the one. Call 345-1111. O'Reilly.
Pick up Peak Long Life Universal Pre-Mixed Antifreeze and Coolant for $8.99 a gallon after mail-in rebate at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Protect against damaging rust and corrosion with Peak Pre-Mixed Coolant, now $8.99 a gallon after mail-in rebate at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You can't change the whole world, but you can be part of the change in the world for a child living in poverty by becoming a Compassion International child sponsor. You can choose a child to sponsor now at compassion.com/radio. That's compassion.com/radio.
A common group of over-the-counter painkillers could raise the risk of irregular heartbeat. A new study out of Taiwan shows painkillers known as NSAIDs appear to be linked to atrial fibrillation. NSAIDs include widely used meds such as ibuprofen and naproxen. Cutting calories may slow down aging. New research published in the medical journal Cell Metabolism found that reducing daily calorie intake by 15% for 2 years can slow the metabolic process that leads to aging and protect against age-related disease such as cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. Well, a Minnesota woman is fulfilling her dream of working as a doctor at the Children's Hospital where she was treated for cancer. Jennifer Pratt says the time she spent at Children's Minnesota in St. Paul was what inspired her to become a doctor, and Dr. Pratt now works there full-time, treating children with life-threatening illnesses. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier at iHeart Studios in downtown New Orleans, the greatest city on the planet. And we're talking Saints, talking Odell Beckham Jr., who I emphasize might because we haven't heard them, I say them, the New York Giants officials have not come out and publicly stated that Odell Beckham Jr. is definitely on the trade block, but there's a lot of speculation to that because he's unsigned, he's asking for a lot of money, and he's had some, I guess, rather negative headlines lately. You know, there was the misstep he had with the online video in bed with a woman and looked like possibly drugs.
Eating pizza in bed.
That wasn't good. New York tabloids had a field day with that, and then there was a video that identified Beckham as part of a fight in an Atlanta nightclub. And
so it was him?
Well, we don't know. The video identified him, alleged it was him. Then he was sued for $15 million by a man who claimed he was beat up and suffered injuries by Odell Beckham Jr. So there's been a lot of headaches for the Giants front office attached to Odell Beckham Jr., but the guy is without question one of the best playmakers in the NFL, and a lot of teams would be willing to put up with those headaches because he can produce on the field. He's a New Orleans native, an LSU product, and would be very popular, I'm sure, for the New Orleans Saints, playing alongside Michael Thomas. We know the Saints showed interest in Jimmy Graham in free agency. They weren't able to land Graham. He ended up signing with the Green Bay Packers. But would they entertain thoughts of trading for Odell Beckham Jr.? Because it looks like they may be headed for a divorce, the New York Giants and Odell Beckham Jr. Would you trade a first-round draft pick? The Saints' number 27 overall pick. Would you trade that for OBJ?
Oh, man. That's actually a tough question.
You're not going to get a player better than him at number 27.
You're not. The question specifically for that is, at this point, at this stage of what the Giants are trying to do, and I'm trying to see how many
here's the deal. He's got $8 million on his contract this year.
Yeah, because he's playing on the fifth-year option. So he's playing on the fifth-year option, $8.46 million this year, and he has stated reportedly that he will not play until he gets a new contract, and he will not play for anything less than what he feels should be $20 million a year, or at least $20 million. So that ought to be very interesting for the Giants brass to try to figure out. But a first-round pick, man.
I mean, that's what the Saints got for Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
A similar pick.
Yeah.
But he is going to cost a lot of money. To me, the biggest issue with him is the price tag, because the Saints know they're going to have to pay Mike Thomas in a year or two. And do you commit that much of your salary cap space to the receiver position, because you're probably talking a huge piece of the pie if you get Odell Beckham Jr. on board to OBJ and Mike Thomas. It'd be a huge chunk along with what you're paying Drew Brees.
Right, and that's the thing that we've gotten on Twitter specifically. I'll read some of the things we've gotten so far is, let's see, he's going to want that Drew Brees money, though. That was from UF Gators Will. One Twitter user says immediately, and then
it seems like it's all over the
what's
map.
the right price? Would he not be okay playing in the slot or playing second chair to Michael Thomas? And I guess that's also the question too: is how do we think he would be used in the Saints offense? How do you think Sean Payton would want to fit him in, knowing that? And again, it's like we talked about a few months ago when we were talking about Willie Snead, we were talking about Brandon Coleman, we were talking about the wide receivers. A lot of people are getting their hands on the ball more than ever from Drew Brees now. And now you have more than enough weapons to be able to really keep teams off balance. But someone is going to eventually be unhappy with the amount of touches and the amount of catches that they get. Michael Thomas is clearly your number one option. Clearly he is your number one go-to.
Not if Odell Beckham Jr. is here.
But at the same time, though, when we're talking about Odell Beckham, do you think Odell Beckham wants to be a guy that wants to run in the slot and wants to catch 7, 8, 9, and 10 yards? No, he wants to go deep. I don't know if Michael.
You run him deep. You can run him deep. There's two
and that's
receivers.
the thing. He wants touchdowns. He's not
going to get touchdowns. The Saints of all teams chuck the ball around more than almost any team in the league. So look at the years they had Jimmy Graham and Reggie Bush and Marcus Colston. They managed. They had. I don't think there's any limit on how many balls you're going to get. He wants to win, I bet, more than anything. And
they haven't had a lot of that in New York.
I think he fits in. I don't have any issue with him fitting in alongside Michael Thomas. I think he brings an element. He's basically a better Ted Ginn Jr.
Yeah.
A younger, better, more expensive Ted Ginn Jr. I think that's the role he'd play. And Ted Ginn Jr. went deep a lot.
Yeah.
So I think I would trade Ted Ginn Jr. and the first-round pick to get Odell Beckham Jr.
I don't know if the Giants want. I mean, Ted's getting up there, and clearly what we're talking about with the Giants have to get younger. They have to get a line to protect Eli Manning. They have to look at getting Eli Manning's replacement. They've got to look at not only dealing with some other, because I mean they're also talking about Landon Collins. Landon Collins also needs to get paid too, because that's what we were talking about last week. I think that depending on how the Giants go about playing the money game, the shell game, how are they going to go through this next year? Hope that both guys play on the deals they're currently on, and then try to pay both of them going into 2019.
There's just a thought that the Giants might be ready. They're in transition. They have a new general manager, Dave Gettleman. They've got a new head coach in Pat Shurmur. There's some belief in New York that they might be ready to move on and go through this transition and take advantage of an asset in Odell Beckham Jr. that would garner them a lot of trade bounty from whatever team might be willing to trade some draft picks for him, maybe even a player or two, because he is that kind of dynamic playmaker. And look, I don't know how he would fit in. The one thing I'm curious about would be to see how he would fit into this locker room, because he is a force of nature personality-wise. He's a unique personality. Would he fit into that Saints locker room that has a lot of very reserved, understated guys for the most part? Guys like Mike Thomas, just kind of lunch pail, come to work, and all of a sudden you introduce that kind of personality into that group. I'm not sure. I don't know Odell Beckham Jr. well enough to be able to comment on how he would fit in, but I think playing-wise, he'd be an ideal fit.
Yeah, and that's gonna lead into my story specifically about this. I'll tell very quickly as we get ready to come up to the top of the hour. So we were at the Texas Bowl a few years ago, and we got to call her. So we were in the Texas Bowl in Houston for the LSU Bowl game against Texas Tech. And so I know OBJ's mom very well. Like, I used to work with her, great woman, loved it. Hadn't seen her in a while, hadn't seen her in a long time after I left one place to go to LSU. So I saw her at the Texas Bowl, and me and her were talking, and, you know, if you guys have now gotten used to how I kind of operate, I try to crack jokes, I try to be funny, try to be witty, all that kind of stuff. Well, I happened to make an offhand comment. I was like, "Oh, cool, you're here. Awesome. Is Odell here too?" And I'm hoping he's not going to get any. If he's going to be down on the field, I hope he doesn't get in any fights with any of the kicking nets. And she was not having any of it. Like, she literally, like, immediately, like, a switch flipped, and she was not happy with me. And I was like, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Like, and it just happened. You know, he did the whole thing where he fought with the net, then he made up with the net, and all this kind of stuff. And she was not. I was like, I'm kidding. I mean, obviously, I saw this stuff. I thought we were. No, and that's when I realized, like, something about specifically her, who, if you don't know about Odell's mom, world-class athlete at LSU, track star at LSU, multiple national champion. I mean, literally, she is still an Olympian and has that mindset of, like, success and all that kind of stuff. And I'll get into that on the next break because it kind of highlights how specifically as a person individually, you go into being the best, being the very top of your field, because it's not easy and you've got to fight a lot of other people. And her being a track athlete, the psychology of that, I believe, goes into a lot of what they're dealing with and how you become a star in this tough of a field.
Well, we know he's got the pedigree because he clearly had the parents that taught him everything he knows about being a professional athlete. He was destined to play pro sports. Look, I know we've got a caller, Jason and Metairie, on hold, but we'll try to get to Jason. If you can hang there with us through the top of the hour break, we want to hear your thoughts on this, but we do have some business to take care of here at the top of the hour. So we'll talk about Odell Beckham Jr. and the New Orleans Saints continuing in the second hour. We're also going to hear from Sean Fazan from Fox 8, great reporter at Fox 8. He's down in Orlando as well, and Sean will get a chance to talk to us after he's already heard from Gail Benson. We'll get his thoughts on the Saints possibly being in the mix for Odell Beckham Jr. So we'll hear from Sean in the second hour, but stay with us. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
Let me live that fantasy.
Here's today's tax tip. User-friendly software programs are helping more people go the DIY route with tax preparation these days. While it might save you money, Dan Clark with Liberty Tax Service in Phoenix says it's not for everybody. Clark says while someone with a very simple return would probably be fine using the software program to file their taxes, others feel more confident having a professional file for them. If you're filing a 1040, 1040A, or 1040EZ form using a software program is easy, and it's hard to make any mistakes or miss any tax advantages. Filing a federal return is free, and while there usually is a fee to file a state return, programs like TurboTax or H&R Block's online service guide you through a step-by-step process and prompt questions to help you get a maximum refund. Clark says more and more tax filing these days is going the way of using a software program, but a professional knows things that might not be so easy to figure out. Higher income earners tend to have investments in other avenues of income that usually require having an experienced accountant handle tax filing. That's today's tax tip from NBC News Radio. I'm Mark Mayfield.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Starting with news from the NBA, when the Warriors head to the postseason, they will be without Steph Curry for the first series of the playoffs. That's according to Coach Steve Kerr, the two-time league MVP, out because of a knee injury he suffered on Friday. Meanwhile, in NFL news, the Jets say they've rescinded their contract offer to free agent defensive lineman Ndamukong Suh. And 98-year-old sister Jean Dolores Schmidt has given Loyola of Chicago her blessing to license her name and image. School says it has received a plethora of requests to use the nun's name or likeness on a variety of merchandise. So far, Loyola has approved about 24 Sister Jean t-shirts from a variety of companies. She also has a bobblehead. Meanwhile, Sister Jean is the chaplain of the basketball program. They're heading to the Final Four where they will face Michigan. And Keita Pates Diop leaving Ohio State to head to the draft. I'm Deb Carson.
We are one. Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword LOCK to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's LOCK to 200-200.
Stop into Lowe's Spring Black Friday event, where you'll find savings on those projects popping up on your to-do list, like taking care of those uninvited weeds and insects. Get a free refill with purchase of Roundup Max Control Weed Killer with Wand. And buy Ortho Home Defense Extended Reach Insect Killer with Comfort Wand and also get a refill free. All projects have a starting point. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through March 28th while supplies last. See store for details, U.S. only.
It's music to your ears. The chance to visit one of the most unique cities in the world while it's celebrating its historic 300th birthday. Welcome to San Antonio's Tricentennial, a full year of events, exhibits, and unmatched fun. There's never been more to do, experience, and taste than right now. And it's all waiting for you here in this one-of-a-kind city, rich in culture, character, and endless entertainment. Plan your perfect trip at visitsanantonio.com.
The Troubadour Hotel New Orleans Tapestry Collection by Hilton, located in the New Orleans CBD, has luxurious finishes to complement the professional and an exquisite view of the New Orleans skyline for impressing clients and colleagues at the rooftop bar. Right now, the Troubadour Hotel is offering 1,000 Hilton Honors Points per night with their grand opening offer, valid now through April 30th. The Troubadour Hotel. Respite from the mundane. It's anything but generic. Visit them online today at thetroubadour.com.
We're in the middle of the worst addiction crisis in the history of New Orleans. It's everywhere, in our schools, places of worship, and in our own homes. It's pain pills, it's alcohol, it's other drugs. Did you know that 1 in 10 are addicted? That's over 100,000 people in Metro New Orleans struggling with drugs or alcohol, and 90,000 haven't gotten help. Well, we've had enough. We're sick of watching people die from a treatable illness. That's why the leading addiction doctors in New Orleans have come together to create a brand new program to treat addiction. We're proud to announce the grand opening of Long Branch Wellness. The goals of Long Branch Wellness are simple. We help our patients feel normal again while they continue to work, go to school, and sleep in their own beds at night. Long Branch Wellness is highly confidential, affordable, convenient, and completely outpatient. Nobody needs to know about it but you. New Orleans finally has the addiction treatment program it deserves. Call Long Branch Wellness at 504-635-3535 or visit longbranchhealthcare.com.
I'm Dave Marley, president of Marley Drug. Are you taking Viagra? Now you can get sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $50 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For more information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That's 800-853-6375.
The 2018 Kids' Choice Awards were handed out Saturday at the Forum in Inglewood, California. John Cena kicked off the event with a nod to the March for Our Lives rallies that took place across the country. He said, "I know it's going to be an amazing night, but kids everywhere have already made it an amazing day." In fact, most of the stars who took to the stage gave a shout-out to the student-led demonstrations. Actress Millie Bobby Brown sported a shirt with the names of all 17 victims of the Parkland, Florida massacre as she accepted the night's first award, Favorite TV Actress, for her role as Eleven on the Netflix hit Stranger Things. Some A-list entertainers came out in support of the hundreds of thousands of people who took part in Saturday's March for Our Lives rally in D.C. Lin-Manuel Miranda and Ben Platt delivered an emotional rendition of Found Tonight, their mashup of ballads from the Broadway hits Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen.
Tomorrow there'll be more of us telling the story of tonight.
Other stars that performed included Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato, Ariana Grande, Jennifer Hudson, and Common. The Stoneman Douglas Drama Club also performed a new song that they had written just days after the shooting. And more than half of all U.S. homes subscribe to at least one video streaming service, such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu. That's according to a new Digital Trends media survey from Deloitte, which found 55% of homes have a subscription. In fact, the percentage of consumers subscribing to a paid streaming service has surged 450% in less than a decade. That's entertainment. Mark Mayfield, NBC News Radio.
Dunc and Holder, Monday, March 26, Hour 2. Hour 1 in the books. We heard from Larry Holder, our cohort in crime, who is down at the NFL owners meetings. He visited from Orlando gave us a report, and we're going to hear from Sean Fazand here in hour 2. But we're talking New Orleans Saints, Odell Beckham Jr., kind of a spicy proposition. Would Odell Beckham Jr. be a good fit for the New Orleans Saints?
Spicy.
Look, and we're just throwing this out there. Let's be clear. There's been no report saying the Saints are involved. There's been no report saying that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be traded, but things look like they could be headed that way. There's a lot of speculation out of New York. And so we're talking about it. I want to get your thoughts on it. If you want to call, 504-260-1280. Let's go to the phone lines because Jason in Metairie has been waiting patiently, waited through the top of the hour, and wants to weigh in on this subject. Jason, what you got today on Monday here in New Orleans?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good morning.
Yeah, I just want to. This Odell Beckham thing is kind of interesting. First of all, anywhere he goes, he's got to have the spotlight. He's got to be the number one guy. But I do think that if he was to play a number 2 role, I think the Saints would probably be the place to go, just because of Drew Brees' run of the offense, his maturity. I think Drew Brees would probably be able to keep him in line. I really, really think that. Would I give a first-round pick for him? I don't know. Because I don't know. That's pretty interesting. Now,
why not? Look at the fact, Jason, that the Saints got a number 1 pick for Brandon Cooks. Don't you think he's a better playmaker than Brandon Cooks? Do you think it's the price tag?
I think he is, but Brandon Cooks wasn't happy here because he wasn't the number 1 guy. Well, he was complaining because he wasn't getting enough catches. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
Well, I think that's a little overplayed. And look, I know that story did come out, but I really don't think, and Larry disagrees with me on this, I don't think Brandon Cooks was a troublemaker. I've talked to a lot of players that have spoken to me privately about Brandon Cooks. They all like Brandon Cooks. He was very popular here. They would tell me if he was a diva, causing problems in the locker room. I never heard one player say that. They all really like Brandon Cooks. Same thing for Jimmy Graham. And if you noticed how popular Jimmy Graham was, how many players came to try and recruit him. So I think that's a little overstated. Yes, it did happen, and he didn't handle it well, but I think it's been overplayed in this media-saturated coverage that we have today with the NFL.
I just think he's too much of a showboat for Sean Payton. I personally believe that. I don't think Sean Payton likes all that, spotlight that he attracts. But I have a question, actually,
sure.
Not changing the subject. A couple of shows ago, I think it was Larry Holder said that in the draft he would take the best player available.
Mm-hmm.
If Darius Geis fell, being that it's Mark Ingram's final year, would you take Darius Geis? Because I don't think Geis and Ingram are the same kind of runners. I see Geis as more of a Kamara type back. I don't think he could be that power runner in the NFL. I really don't.
All right, good question. Good question, Jason. And let me give that answer here in a second because I think that is an interesting proposition. But thanks for the call and thanks for waiting and being patient through the top of the hour break. Darius Geis, I don't think the Saints need a running back, first of all. I know that they're going to come to the end of Mark Ingram's tenure here at some point, and it makes sense to draft his eventual replacement. I think Alvin Kamara is that replacement. I think he's an every down back. I don't think he's going to be Darren Sproles or Reggie Bush. It's kind of a satellite back. That's the role he's playing right now. I think when they move on from Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara will be the guy in there on first down, second down, because I think he's got that ability. And then I think they draft another or maybe bring in an undrafted rookie to replace him. I don't think this team can afford to invest another high pick in a running back when they're so stacked already. I think they've got too many other needs right now than to go running back in the first round.
Yeah, and I mean, credit, I think Darius specifically, it's been an interesting offseason for him. Obviously, you had all the stuff that went down at the Combine and all the zany questions that NFL teams asked him, and then just this past weekend on Friday, he saved a woman's life in Baton Rouge after a car crash. So clearly, he's had a very interesting offseason. But I honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I think I actually liken him a little bit more to Mark Ingram than I do Alvin Kamara. After seeing him run for 3 years at LSU, he has a lot more power. He generates a lot more power from his legs than I think people give him credit for. Can he catch the ball? Absolutely. Can he be a little bit shifty? Of course he can. I think he has a lot more power than what people let on to, because, I mean, there are some people he could clearly run over to. He doesn't have Leonard Fournette's body, but he can generate some power with his legs, and he can run through the tackles, and he can run some people over. But he'd also be quick and shifty when you if you put him out wide too. So a team that is going to, I think he goes a little bit higher in that first round than I think people.
Do you really?
I do.
I don't even know if he's going to go first round.
I think someone is going to see him. What they've already seen at the combine and what they will see at the pro day, which will probably be a lot more of him maybe catching and maybe doing a little bit more drills. I think some team is going to like, or already has liked what they've seen, and they're probably testing the waters to see how he kind of goes about and what other teams are thinking, that he might go in the first round. I think I could see it.
Well, he's on the kind of the cusp in the first round, early second round grade. NFL Draft Scout has Geis as the number 35 overall prospect in this draft. That's obviously fluid. We still have a couple months till the draft, so that could change one way or the other. But he's right at the end of the first round, early second round. You're right. If a team really likes him, they won't hesitate to take him in the first round. But I don't know. I mean, the NFL has gone away from – I know that Leonard Fournette had this monster year and
Kareem
Hunt, but they've kind of gone away from using these first-round picks on running backs. Unless it's a true franchise back like Saquon Barkley or Leonard Fournette, I don't know if anybody's going to invest a first-rounder in Geis. Maybe they will.
Well, I mean, if they can, if most mock draft scouts are considering Geis the second best running back,
he is
in this draft.
But that doesn't mean
it doesn't guarantee anything. Of course,
second best running back can go in the second round.
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee anything. But I think we're starting to see a little bit of a resurgence of the running back position from teams and being able to really scout how running backs fit the system that they have offensively. I think after seeing what Leonard Fournette did for Jacksonville and how it literally changed their offense with a quarterback in Blake Bortles that had a little bit of an up and down year, and then you say, okay, well, we have that, and then Kansas City you have Kareem Hunt playing with a little bit more of a accurate style passer in Alex Smith. That's how you do that. Todd Gurley in Los Angeles. They're and then obviously Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. I think teams are now doing a better job of scouting running backs that fit their system a lot better.
Well, I think that Alvin Kamara, there's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword there. One, he proves to you how valuable the running back position can be. He was a playmaker, had a huge impact, rookie of the year, as we all know. But the Saints got him in the third round. So,
yeah,
they didn't have to invest a first-round pick, and that's the other side of the equation. Kareem Hunt wasn't he a third-round pick as well?
Yes.
He was definitely a mid-round pick. So a lot of teams will look at them and say, look, you don't have to use a first-round pick on these kind of guys. You can still get a productive player in the middle rounds. It's an interesting year for running backs because, as you mentioned, Saquon Barkley, a lot of people think he might be the number one overall player in this entire draft. I don't know if he'll go number one, but he might be the highest graded player in the draft. Then you go down to Darius Geis, who, like we said, in the first round, early second round. And then there's a drop-off all the way to round 2, and you have Sony Michel from Georgia and the running back from Southern Cal, Jones. He's also a second-round pick. So you've got 3 running backs projected. Ronald Jones, the second from Southern Cal, and then the running back from Auburn, Kerryon Johnson. So those 3 all have second-round grades. And I can tell you Johnson's a player. He's a good running back.
Yeah.
And then Nick Chubb, and he's kind of a second, third-round grade. So it's, you can get a running back that can be productive for you all the way down the second or third round, I think, and not have to invest a first-round pick on a back. It's interesting, on the other hand, what's going to happen at the quarterback position, because you've got a lot of people now speculating that Sam Darnold is clearly the front runner to be the first quarterback taken now, likely by the Cleveland Browns at number 1. But behind him, it sounds like opinions are mixed on Josh Rosen, Jared Allen, and Baker Mayfield. Somewhere those 3 guys are going to come off the board in the top 10. And then Lamar Jackson is projected as a first-round pick, but probably a little bit later in the first round. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
Well, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but I made sure to retweet it from our account, specifically on Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. Nate Burleson said that he would love Lamar Jackson being selected by the Saints at number 27 and then learning behind Drew Brees. That it would be completely wonderful for his development as a quarterback, because he does believe that he can play quarterback in the NFL, and that going to the Saints would be a boon for them because they would get a dynamic quarterback and playmaker to learn behind Drew Brees and learning behind one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. It's a very intriguing prospect that he brought up specifically because it does make you take a pause for a second and think about, well, if there's anybody a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson could learn from, Drew Brees isn't a bad one to learn from.
But do you invest a first-round pick in a guy that's really not going to play for you for maybe 3 more years? I'm just speculating out. I don't think he's going to see the field. And you've got a guy in Taysom Hill who you like as your future quarterback, maybe developmental type, and then you've got Tom Savage. So what do? Now you got 4 quarterbacks on the roster. You have to keep Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I think the Saints pass on a quarterback this year because I really feel like they like Taysom Hill, at least want to see what he's got, and there's no real sense of urgency right now in this draft because you got Drew Brees under contract for at least 2 more years, maybe 3 more years. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Aldo in Metairie checking in with us here on Dunc and Holder. What you got, Aldo?
Hey, what's up? I just have a couple of thoughts. One, Lamar Jackson, if he's available, I think you possibly take him if he's available in the second round. Oh, well, we don't have a pick in the second round. Right. But that being said, then you could also have 2 guys on a team, a Taysom Hill and a Lamar Jackson, that could play other positions also.
Well, there's no doubt about that. That's a good point. I think the problem you have, Aldo, is what I just mentioned. You'd have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. You'd have to keep – somebody would have to go you'd have to cut either Tom Savage. Would you feel comfortable doing that and just going with inexperienced guys behind Brees? All of a sudden you'd have Lamar Jackson and Taysom Hill. Or are you going to cut Taysom Hill loose? I know how highly Sean Payton thinks of Taysom Hill. So it leaves a little bit of a conundrum because most teams don't keep more than 3 on the active roster. You can't afford to. You can't afford to take up all those roster spots. So I don't know what they would do there. I think it's an interesting question.
One other thing. I think you have the perfect Pierre Thomas right here at Tulane that you could draft or sign as an undrafted free agent in Dontrell Hilliard. I mean, he can catch the ball out the backfield. He'd be a great screen guy. You could bring him in, give him a look, and he's a hard runner. I think you could get a steal very late or an undrafted free agent. And I'll hang up and listen to what you have to say.
Thank you, Aldo, and I agree wholeheartedly on Dontrell Hilliard. I think he's the perfect undrafted free agent type that's going to come in and make an NFL roster. I think he's a very good all-around running back. I think he'll play in the NFL multiple years. He could have a career much like Orleans Darkwa had out of Tulane. Wasn't drafted, and then has forged a career as a good every down back. And I think Hilliard would be a perfect fit for the Saints. Is that the role that they've had there behind Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram? Daniel Lasco played that role. I could see Hilliard perfectly fitting in there and helping out on special teams.
Banner year for Tulane, man. I can't remember the last time we talked about as many Tulane guys being virtual NFL locks, because you have, between that you have obviously Ade Aruna and then Perry Nickerson. So I mean, a banner year for Tulane that they look like they're about to send some guys to the league, and that only can help them for recruiting, because clearly you send guys to the league, people start taking notice.
Curtis Johnson has to get credit for that. I mean, he's the one who recruited all these kids to Tulane, and that's a prime example. I mean, he was recruited. He wasn't an unknown, but I think his only offers were like Oklahoma State. I think Baylor looked at him, and he wanted to stay home, and he forged a great career at Tulane. And, that's the kind of players Tulane has to get. They're not going to get they're not going to get Leonard Fournette. They're not going to get that level of athlete right now until they build their program. But they can get Dontrell Hilliard and develop him, and he ends up being a standout college player. They do it all the time. And you're right, they put 2 or 3 players a year, it seems like, in the NFL.
Yeah, and guys who come in right away who become names, and then you realize, man, yeah, you can see, like you've seen those guys at Tulane clearly be productive players for 4+ years, and now go on the NFL and do the same thing.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, I want to hear the rest of your story about Odell Beckham Jr. I think there was the rest of the story.
There was the rest of the story.
There was the rest of the story. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
miss 1 second of the Pelicans' flight to the playoffs. Every game is on News Talk 99.5, WRNO, and then do it big with our Sports 1280 New Orleans All-Stars. Spread your wings. Spread the word. News Talk 99.5, WRNO, and Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Jimmy John's Freaky Fast, Freaky Fresh.
I'm calling because I saw one of your delivery persons today, and he was totally naked.
Ma'am, I sincerely want to apologize for any...
Buck naked right there on the street.
Ma'am, we're doing all we can to...
And I say it's about darn time.
I know, and I'm gonna... Wait, what?
The human body is a beautiful thing, don't you agree?
Well,
We've suffered the tyranny of clothing for way too long.
Okay, but...
So thanks, Jimmy John's, for going all natural.
Actually, ma'am, it's our meats that are all natural.
Say what now?
Our meats are all natural. Wood smoked ham, choice roast beef, real fresh turkey breast, all natural and freaky fresh.
So I don't suppose I can expect all natural delivery in the future.
No.
Mike Hudson, area president for iHeartMedia New Orleans. iHeartMedia New Orleans is growing its sales force. If you're an experienced media rep, any media, I want to talk to you. Call me, 504-679-7300, or email me, michaelhudson@iheartmedia.com. iHeartMedia is the largest media company in the world. Grow with us. We're looking for you. We'll pay you what you're worth. 504-679-7300, or email me, michaelhudson@iheartmedia.com. iHeartMedia is an equal opportunity employer.
I'm Dave Marley, president of Marley Drug. Are you taking Viagra? Now you can get sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $50 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For more information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That's 800-853-6375.
This is Smart Hacks for your smart speakers. I'm Stacy Walter. Did you know that Alexa will read bedtime stories to your child? Yeah, just say, Alexa, tell bedtime story to Billy, and you can both sit back until one of you falls asleep.
Once upon a time.
Alexa also connects you to your favorite live radio stations with iHeartRadio. Tell Alexa to play your favorite iHeartRadio station like this. Alexa, play iHeart 80s.
Playing iHeart 80s on iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio has all your favorite music and radio on your smart speaker. This has been Smart Hacks for your smart speakers.
The NCAA's Final Four is all set after another wild weekend of college hoops. Villanova and Kansas will square off Saturday. Michigan will play Cinderella at Loyola Chicago for the right to head to the championship game. In the pros, the Rockets get their 9th straight win and a 118-99 crushing of the Hawks in Houston. James Harden with a triple-double in the Rockets' 60th win.
It's just a good feeling. You know what I mean? You're doing something right. Chemistry's there. The guys are sharing the ball, being unselfish, and playing for each other.
Houston now 5.5 games ahead of the Warriors for the top seed in the Western Conference and best record in the league. Meanwhile, Dubs coach Steve Kerr confirming guard Steph Curry is out for the first round of the playoffs after he left Friday's game with a sprained MCL. Warriors fell to the Jazz last night 110-91. The playoffs start April 14. Elsewhere Sunday, Cavaliers over the Nets. Bucks slip by the Spurs. Pacers top the Heat in overtime. Blazers over the Thunder. And it's the final Monday without Major League Baseball for quite some time. Opening day set for Thursday. That's sports. Jake Corwin, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
You talk dirty to me.
Oh, yeah. Dunc and Holder rocking it. Holding down the fort on Monday, March 26th, downtown New Orleans, Louisiana. We're at the iHeart Radio Studios. Where is this technically? Dave, what part of town? Was this Warehouse District?
I mean, this is more CBD than anything, I would imagine. I mean, you want to go down Howard, past the World War II Museum, the Ogden Museum.
It's kind of Warehouse District downtown. We're on the cusp.
Yeah, we're on the cusp of it. Like, literally, I would say that we're more closer to the Arts District than anything else.
We could call WDSU across the street and ask them where the folks think.
Yeah. If anything, we'll make sure. We'll call him Sharif, and then Sharif will tell us where we are, and then also tell us, talk to us about Real Housewives, which he tweeted at me and said last week when we were talking about all this reality show TV stuff that he would love to come on and talk about all this stuff, and I'm just kind of like,
I'm going to
sure,
start
bro.
dialing now.
Yeah, sure, bro. Why not?
Yeah, we'll get Sharif on to talk reality with us.
Oh yeah, because on a Friday
we need to follow up on the Bachelorette in Clay Harbor.
Yeah, seriously, we're still waiting.
Gated subdivision in Gretna. But first, we're going to go to the phone lines and talk to David out in Las Vegas. David, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Thanks for calling us, bud. What's up?
Well, listen, guys, as you know, the Sue thing is starting to get on my nerves. I don't know about some of the other fans out there, but I think at this point, Sue needs to just make his mind up what he wants to do. But I think Saints need to be a little cautious on this situation. I just think at this point, if he doesn't give an answer in the next couple of days, they need to move on to somebody else and start looking at other players to bring on board. They can't wait around forever. I mean, they have a lot of other things they need to be focused on, and I'm sure they are, but I just think they need to, before any of those other players get signed, I think if he's not going to be in the cards, let's just move on to someone else. You got Hankins is out there. They're pretty good. Jonathan Hankins, he's a pretty good little player. I think he'd be a welcome addition to the D-line. There's probably a couple other guys I'm not thinking of right now. And as far as, other free agents out there, receiver, I think we still need to, and defensive end, maybe look at Coney Ely. He's still a young guy. He's got a lot of promise, but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out in a couple of places he's been. My question is if Cam Jordan went down, we'd really be screwed. So I still think we need to build the defense. I mean, I know we got a lot better last year, but I still think at this point, we have to add a couple pieces on offense, but I think we need to continue to build that defense, because if Cameron Jordan goes down, we would really be in trouble, guys. I mean, I know we have other guys on that's, up-and-coming players like Hendrickson and, and some other players I'm not thinking of, but at the end of the day, we need to continue to build the defense and add a couple pieces on offense here and there. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
All right, thanks, David. Appreciate you checking in, as always, from Las Vegas. And, look, I know you're frustrated with Ndamukong Suh's commitment issues. It sounds like he's having trouble committing, which a lot of us out there have trouble committing sometimes. But it sounds to me, look, when he left here and didn't commit or didn't sign, and I know he wanted to make a couple other visits, I know how the Saints operate, and they're usually going to lock a guy up right away, not let him go visit somewhere else. And the fact that he moved on and got a chance to sit down with the Titans and the Rams, I thought was kind of a bad sign, which indicated to me that it wasn't a slam dunk for him. He didn't get the contract offer that he wanted here, and it sounds to me like the Rams are the team to beat for Suh. And, look, I think the Saints, I think we all agree, the Saints are fine up front. They got a decent defensive tackle rotation already. Sheldon Rankins, they're very high on David Onyemata, developing player from Canada, of course. And then Tyler Davidson's kind of their run stuffer in there. They got 3 defensive tackles. I think they'll draft another one. I haven't heard them linked to Hankins. He's a guy that's visited a few places. You are right. He's a good player, good run stuffer. I don't know if he's in the mix here. I don't know if they just feel like Suh is too good a player to pass up, and that's why they're going after him and not Hankins. But clearly this is an area that they feel they need to fortify. And they made a run at Suh. It kind of surprised me because he has a reputation as a little bit of a loner, a little bit of a selfish player, a me guy, if you will. But I guess they feel like their locker room is strong enough to bring in a guy like Suh, and that he's not going to upset the apple cart. I don't think he's a bad person or a bad player in that regard. I think he's just kind of a to-himself guy, and that's not necessarily terrible. But we've heard a lot of reports on him, both in Detroit and Miami, that he's kind of a loner and just does his own thing and sometimes freelances within the course of a play. And that's what, when I say a me guy, a selfish guy, that's what I'm talking about. A guy that isn't necessarily fulfilling his assignment. He's going for himself, trying to get a sack, and that might not be what they're asking him to do within the course of a given play.
And they gets penalized. That's one of the most penalized players in the NFL. But that goes to finishing story time with Clyde from the very last segment of the second half before we have to get to Sean.
Is there an ending to the story?
There's kind of an ending to the story, or at least it's an understanding. So if you missed the end of the first hour, I was telling the story about how my sharp-witted tongue got me in a little bit of trouble with OBJ's mom because I made an offhanded joke about him getting in a fight with Annette, as we all saw. Getting in a fight with Annette and then
kicking
net, and then making up with said kicking net on the sidelines. I was clearly joking. I wasn't being serious by it. I thought, she knew me well enough to know that it was silly, and it was a silly thing. It was a silly thing to do on the sidelines. But it got me thinking specifically about how when you're dealing with high-profile, highly individualized athletes, how they're on a different plane mentally than other athletes are. And specifically, when you think about OBJ's mom, who was a standout track athlete, you have to think about the sport of track and field. Of all the sports I've worked around, outside of real team sports, basketball, football, baseball, softball, whatever, track and field, swimming and diving, tennis, all these sports that are now quote-unquote team sports are really individualized sports. It's you against the timer. It's you against the water. It's you against your other player. You're individualized. So you are literally, and the psychology of it is you
What's
are going
that got to
up
do
against.
with Odell Beckham Jr.?
He is a player who has been coached by his mom and his dad his entire life to be the guy. Like, here's how you be the guy. And here's how you go about being the best. Individually, when you think about that, you have to kind of really divert your thinking into, how do I become the best at my position? What are the steps I need to take? And then what do I need to do individually that also has to play well with the team, but it's got to be about me.
But you don't think other players are trying to be the best at what they can be?
They
you don't
are.
think Mike Thomas wants to be the best.
Absolutely.
So
I'm saying that the difference is the psychology of it. Is like you against, it's really you against, not necessarily 11, but you basically against yourself more than anything else. But then it's really you and the ball, and there's nothing else there. Because if you think about the mind of a track athlete, it's once that gun goes off, you're not running against 12 or 11 other people on the track. You're basically running against that gun. You want to be the fastest one from start to finish. And for me, I just think that when we talk about guys specifically like him and how the Saints could possibly be able to hone down, quote unquote, because Drew Brees is in the locker room, they'll be able to tone down guys like Ndamukong Suh, guys like OBJ. I think it's a lot tougher than most because I think their mentality is a little bit different than others.
I don't necessarily think Odell Beckham Jr. would be a bad fit here. I think he would fit in very well on the field, but I do wonder, and some of our callers have mentioned it, can Sean Payton tolerate that? You know, Sean Payton is himself kind of a...
He gets in trouble sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, is the town big enough for OBJ and Sean Payton? That was the famous line. I don't know if you remember this, Clyde, when Joe Horn moved on from Joe Horn. He said, this town isn't big enough for Joe Horn and Sean Payton. And Joe Horn was a little bit of a diva himself, big personality in the locker room. And the Saints moved on from him and wanted to go with the younger receivers.
Cell phone under the pylon.
Yes, I'm wondering if they would feel the same way about Odell Beckham Jr. All right, let's take a break. We'll carry on this conversation in the next after the break, and we'll see what you have to say about Odell Beckham Jr. Should the Saints potentially entertain trade talks for the New Orleans native, former LSU standout Odell Beckham Jr.? Listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
Baby, you're so classy. 4,000 roses, anything for you to notice. All the way to serenade you, doing it's not style.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Lakeside Shopping Center.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, partly to mostly cloudy skies. No mention of rain with a high of 82. Tonight, mostly cloudy with lows in the low to mid-60s with patchy fog developing. And tomorrow on Tuesday, more clouds. Slight chance of a shower, less than 20%, so most day dry but warm on Tuesday at 83. Wednesday into Thursday, rain chances come up as a front moves in. Looks like Thursday, the rainiest day. And then Friday, we dry out for the Easter weekend. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Spring is in full bloom at Lakeside Shopping Center. Embrace the beauty of the season with the freshest fashion finds at your favorite stores, including Macy's, Dillard's, JCPenney, Aldo, Free People, Sephora, Janie and Jack, and so much more. Lakeside Shopping Center, there's something new in store.
You know, before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So, we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu, where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First line's $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Free phones require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to 1 Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
The 4 for $4 from Wendy's has a lot of fans because it's a deal that gives you a sandwich plus 4 nuggets, a small fry, and drink, all for just $4. But now the 4 for $4 has more variety than ever with 8 sandwich choices.
I'm loyal to the double stack.
I'm Junior Bacon Cheeseburger through and through.
I pledge myself to the crispy chicken sandwich.
I'm loyal to my hunger.
Whether you're loyal to one sandwich or all 8, the Wendy's 4 for $4 has a sandwich for you. So try them all and pick your favorite. Now that's deliciously different.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
I'm Dave Marley, president of Marley Drug. Are you taking Viagra? Now you can get sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $50 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For more information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That's 800-853-6375.
Sugar, DJ. It's your home. This is where you talk the home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Duncan Holder, Jeff Duncan, Claude Verdun, Dave DeCorbier on Monday, March 26th, and we're going to go back down to the Sunshine State, Orlando, Florida. The NFL owners meeting's kicking off today, and talk to Sean Fazan from Fox 8, who's down reporting. Going to get a chance to talk to Saints owner Gail Benson today. For the first time, she's going to address the media as the official owner of the New Orleans Saints, the solo owner. She's been an owner for a while now, but she is now the woman in charge of both franchises, New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans. Sean, welcome in, bud. What are you looking forward to hearing from Gail Benson today?
I'm not exactly sure. We're going to ask her, just kind of, it's been a whirlwind few days for her, if you really think about it.
Yep.
Mr. Benson's passing in the midst of what is a pretty busy time in the NFL calendar when you talk about free agency and, NFL owners meetings, draft preparation, and not to mention the fact that the Pelicans are in a playoff race, the horse racing. So it's been kind of a whirlwind few days, and kind of want to get a gauge and see how she's kind of taking it all in. And, she's a very poised woman, always presents herself very poised. I have no doubt she'll present that to us again today. But I guess you could say now it kind of gets real, right? I mean, she's been preparing for this moment, and now it's here. And we're just kind of asking and see how it feels for her. And, and I'm sure she's ready for the challenge and, full speed ahead here at the NFL owners meeting.
Yeah, Sean, we get asked a lot about how things are going to go going forward now without Mr. Benson. And I don't know about if you agree with me or not, but I don't think it's going to change much to the general public. I think it's kind of been operating this way, frankly, for the last year or so as Tom Benson's health has declined. The Saints executive team, along with Gail Benson, has kind of been running the show day to day for a while now. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, the only thing you're going to miss is that'll be different, or the shots of Mr. Benson in the stands, or on the sideline in his earlier years. I think from an operation day-to-day standpoint, Dennis Lauscha, the most trusted lieutenant inside the Saints headquarters, is still going to run things from the business side. Mickey Loomis will still run things from the sports side, the trusted lieutenant. And, Greg Bensel, another guy, will run things from a communication PR type standpoint. So I think from a day-to-day sort of way of doing business, it's going to be pretty standard. And I know that Mrs. Benson trusts those guys, and they'll basically be doing things they've been doing, for the last few years. And, it's just a matter of time. This wasn't like a sudden death. I mean, they had been preparing for this moment over the last couple of years, and just a matter of putting the plan in place. And
as an organization, they seem to be pretty good at that. So I would expect, just from a fan's perspective, it's going to be pretty much the same as it's been over the last couple of years.
Talking to Sean Fazan from Fox 8, who's down at the NFL annual meeting of owners. And we'll get a chance to talk to Gail Benson, the new owner of the Saints, a little bit later today. And then tomorrow, of course, Sean Payton, Saints head coach, will have his breakfast with the media. And I'm curious, Sean, what do you think? What do you make of the Ndamukong Suh pursuit? I mean, do you think hopes are fleeting now that the Saints might be able to wrap him up? Where do you see that standing?
You know, I saw the earlier report today that the Rams had kind of emerged as the front runner. That's kind of the way I saw it when he left town. I can't make heads or tails of this pursuit. I couldn't tell if it's a we got to have this guy type of pursuit, or if it's a let's bring him in, let's kind of feel him out, let's see what he's about, let's see if we can come up with a contract, and if it's not there, if it's not the number we want, let him walk. Look, they have a need at defensive tackle. He can certainly help in terms of on-the-field production. I do know this, though. Got a pretty good locker room, pretty stable locker room, but it's a younger locker room with a lot of the guys, and we've heard certain issues when it came to Stu in that regard. So, at least on my end, I see a kind of a situation where why risk it when you have a good locker room? But I understand their pursuit because of the need. I don't get the feeling that it was an all-out let's go get him, let's not let him leave town, because he left town and he visited 3 other teams. I don't think it's going to happen. Anything is certainly possible, and it doesn't surprise me that they're still in the mix, but it also doesn't surprise me that the Rams have kind of emerged as the leader, given who they've signed this offseason as well.
Well, Sean, in that regard, then, it's mostly the Saints doing their due diligence, right? Because, I mean, if he is as impactful of a player as he has been, both on the good and bad side, you have to at least broach those waters, right? Because, I mean, outside of really the talk about bringing in Demario Davis, bringing in Patrick Robinson, those have been moves that in some ways may be shrewd, maybe not so shrewd. Why not go for Suh, but then realize that if you don't land him, well, we're probably going to go out and find another guy that people probably don't have on their radar that we can come in and then also contribute right away too. Yeah,
I think that's a fair point. It is a matter of, especially when you invest in a guy like that, coming off the contract that he had. I think he's still the highest paid defensive tackle in football when he signed that contract. I think it was a crazy contract out in Miami, and certainly, if you're going to invest in a guy like that, you do want to do your due diligence and kind of see where it goes. And I just get the feeling that when he was in town, he certainly felt like, okay, the Saints have a real shot here. But when he left town and he's kind of been bouncing around a little bit, I don't know what your guys' confidence is with it, but I just think right now I'm leaning towards it not happening, and we'll see what happens with the rest of free agency. But there is a need there at that position, and it's certainly something that I think they would address both in the draft, and if there's a kind of another guy that pops up here in this last wave, then perhaps they go that route as well.
Talking to Sean Fazan of Fox 8. He's down at the NFL owners meetings in Orlando, Florida. And Sean, I want to ask you a little bit about Odell Beckham Jr. We've been kicking around on the show here, having a little fun with the possibility of Odell Beckham Jr. maybe going on the trade block. Would the New Orleans Saints have any interest in him? How would you see that fit? Do you think he would fit not only one on the field next to Michael Thomas, and two, cap-wise, would that even be doable considering down the road they're probably going to have to pay Mike Thomas as well?
Yeah, it'd be hard to make both of those contracts work because he already wants to be paid like a quarterback. Michael Thomas is going to come in top of the market money when he comes up in a couple of years. But as for on the field, I think absolutely they can make that work given his skill set meshed with a guy like Michael Thomas's skill set and just his pure speed. I think it could work. And I think in New Orleans, as crazy as it sounds, I know because he's kind of had some issues up in New York, but in New Orleans, I kind of think he'd be on his best behavior just because he's from New Orleans. He probably has respect for the city, and he certainly has respect for Drew Brees. And I think he'd be a little bit better behavior, maybe a little bit more, well behaved in his hometown. I just don't know how it would ever work financial wise, just because you got some money coming up here, some big contracts looming when you talk about Michael Thomas, and in a couple of years after that, you'll have Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore as well, another big time contracts.
Yeah, I think he would fit incredibly well alongside Mike Thomas on the field. I mean, you can only imagine what kind of threat he would give the Saints offense. He's almost a perfect fit. Frankly, as we said, he's a younger, more dynamic Ted Ginn Jr., and we saw how he played out this year. I just don't know if they could afford down the road, as you know how you devote a certain amount of money to different positions on the cap. Would that piece of the pie would be so large for the wide receiver position, and you're already paying a huge chunk of it to Drew Brees. Could you afford to tie up that much cap space with Mike Thomas, Odell Beckham Jr., and Drew Brees? You'd have a huge chunk of your pie going to those three players.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be a rookie quarterback throwing the ball to him at some point when it's on those two big contracts, just because I don't think you could devote all that cap space to three guys. And it would be something to think about maybe just for 1 year if you could make it all work. But I just don't think with Thomas, Brees, and Beckham if that would work financially.
Well, Sean, I haven't seen your latest mock. Give me your rundown. What are you thinking now? This is a fluid situation leading up to the NFL draft. Players' stock rises and falls. Where do you see the Saints going at number 27?
I'm staying with my gut here. It hasn't changed. I'm sticking with the tight end position. I'm going back and forth with who that tight end's going to be, either Goddard, Gesicki from Penn State, or even maybe a Hayden Hurst out of South Carolina. We'll see. But I am sticking with that right now just because of the way the draft, if you read mock drafts, if you just kind of read the flow of what's happening pre-draft, it feels like they'll have a nice tight end selection available at 27. But also don't discount maybe a wide receiver or even a defensive tackle. The defensive tackle out of Florida, Taven Bryan.
Yes.
I watched tape of him for the first time last week. I was very impressed with how quick he is off the snap. So I understand some mocks have him going to the Saints at 27, so that wouldn't be a terrible selection either. But right now, I'm sticking with my gut. I'm going with tight end.
All right, Sean Fazan, Fox 8, visiting with us. Kind enough to cut out some time because I know it's hectic. You're going to get a chance to talk to Gail Benson a little bit later today. But thanks for calling in, Sean, and enjoy the rest of the day. I know it's going to be hectic for you the next 24, 48 hours.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, Sean Fazan, Fox 8, does a great job over there. And, look, that's an assignment that all the local media jumped on. You know how it works, Clyde. I mean,
we have to go to Orlando again?
Yeah, Gail Benson's speaking. Yes, we need to go down there.
It's going to be big news. I mean, it is big news, but we get to do it in Orlando too? Can't turn that down, boy.
And speaking of luxury assignments, there's another one that's come up in the local sports scene over this weekend that I will touch on when we come back from this break here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. You're listening to Dunc and Holder. Stay with us.
What do you say? Marry more. Triple found that way. Twist it on the floor. What do you say?
Alvin Gentry went off.
You can't guess on a foul.
But I think he should have went a little bit further than he did.
Call it both ways.
It's been something that I think should have happened a long time ago. It's almost three blind mice that are officiating games.
Eric Asher, weekdays, noon to 2.
You get a strong opinion each and every day.
Before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu, where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First lines $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. DDD prioritization during congestion. Free phones require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to 1 Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
O'Reilly. Pick up Peak Long Life Universal Pre-Mixed Antifreeze and Coolant for $8.99 a gallon after mail-in rebate at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Protect against damaging rust and corrosion with Peak Pre-Mixed Coolant, now $8.99 a gallon after mail-in rebate at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Attention all high school student athletes. April is Financial Literacy Month, and the Turk Foundation, in conjunction with Turk Sports, is hosting its first annual 2018 Best of the Boot Awards and Video Essay Scholarship Competition. All high school senior student athletes are eligible from the New Orleans metropolitan area with a minimum of 2.5 GPA. All videos must be submitted via WeTransfer at turksports.org on or before April 2nd, 2018 at 11:59 p.m. For more information, visit turksports.org. That's turksports.org.
Are you looking for a great happy hour? A place where the real drinkers go because the real drinkers know. Lamplighter Bar and Grill. For over 50 years at Oak Lawn and Vets, open 24/7. Lamplighter already has the lowest price in town. But join us for happy hour, Monday through Friday, 4:30 to 8 p.m., and get the lowest happy hour price in town on call brands like Crown Royal, Jack Daniels, Johnny Walker, Dewar's, Kettle One, Grey Goose, Bacardi, and more. Kitchen's always open. Lamplighter Bar and Grill, Metairy's best kept secret. Oak Lawn and Vets next to the Burger King.
It's a new way to party with friends under the umbrellas or on the new sky deck watching great golf. Enjoy fresh oysters, fried seafood, and cocktails. The Acme Oyster House, right on the course at the Zurich Classic, April 26th through 29th. For tickets, call today or visit ZurichGolfClassic.com.
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Dunc and Holder wrapping up hour 2 here, next few minutes. But I wanted to touch on an occurrence over the weekend. I mentioned it earlier, but we didn't go into much detail here. The Louisiana Derby was run on Saturday. And of all things, you know, a huge week for the Bensons, as Sean and Larry both alluded to with the passing of Tom Benson. But their entry in the Louisiana Derby, Lone Sailor, owned by Tom and Gail Benson, GMB Racing Stables, ran second to Noble Indy in the Louisiana Derby, earning 40 qualifying points for the Kentucky Derby. And GMB Racing, the Saints Pelicans management group, are all headed back up to Louisville, most likely, assuming everything goes well health-wise with Lone Sailor. They will be in the starting gate on May 5th at the Kentucky Derby. It's a remarkable story. This would be their third Kentucky Derby entrant in 3 years. And Tom Amos, what a day he had. A trainer, New Orleans-based. We had him on the program on Friday. He said he thought Lone Sailor had a shot, that the race might set up for him. There's a lot of speed in the race. And literally, he almost won this thing. I mean, they lost by a neck. Noble Indy came back on him in the stretch and just got his neck in front of Lone Sailor. It would have been an incredible story if Lone Sailor would have pulled off the upset. I think he was 9-1 odds, so he was well down the list of favorites. He got bet down as the sentimental choice of the bettors here in New Orleans. But a great story. Tom Amos, as I mentioned, had a big day at the track. He trained the winner of the Fairgrounds Oaks, Chocolate Martini, and Chocolate Martini is now going on to the Kentucky Oaks, which will be run the day before the Derby in Louisville at Churchill Downs. So Tom Amos, in a half hour, Clyde, ends up winning basically $380,000 in purses for his owners, sends one of his horses, a horse he claimed for $25,000 just 6 weeks ago, Chocolate Martini, wins the Fairgrounds Oaks with her, and then a half hour later runs second by a neck in the Louisiana Derby, $1 million race. What a day he had, and I have to relate this story I was telling you earlier during the break.
Mm-hmm.
We have a group of riders that come in, the national riders, Jay Privman from the Daily Racing Forum, Jim Mulvihill with the National Thoroughbred Racing Association. We have a tradition. We always go out to eat after the Louisiana Derby. We had a table at Clancy's, my favorite place in town, on Saturday night, and Tom Amos was there with his party with his wife Colleen, and they were celebrating. And so we sent over a congratulatory bottle of champagne to Tom's table, and they came by the table on the way out as they were leaving the restaurant, and Tom says to me, "You're not going to believe who's coming behind us." And he wouldn't tell us who it was, and there was a break of about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden we saw all these kind of guys coming downstairs. Did not look like your typical Clancy's patrons. Let's just put it that way.
Put it that way.
They were wearing a lot of black T-shirts, a lot of long hair. And so it was a curious group as they made their way out. And then all of a sudden, the last person in the group comes down the stairs, John Bon Jovi, and was the entire restaurant started standing up. People were taking photos. He was posing for photos. And, of course, John Bon Jovi played last night, I think, right? Smoothie King Center?
At Smoothie King Center, yep.
So, we had a little celebrity sighting at Clancy's. Suddenly, Tom Amos went from being the big man on campus to not the second biggest man on campus in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, you could say that he was living on a prayer.
Oh, gosh. I can't believe you went there.
You're welcome. That's what we bring to you on the Monday.
I will say this. John Bon Jovi looked good. I mean, he's 56, I think, is what they told us.
They're gonna induct him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year.
Oh, they're going in? Wow.
Yep.
Well, he looked good. I mean, he was having a good time, too. He was so cool. He was not in a hurry to leave. People wanted to get photos with him. He hung out, and it was a cool scene there. And that's kind of stuff that happens in New Orleans. It's those. You just never know who you're going to run into at some of these places. But getting back to Tom Amos, great story for him. Very happy for him. He's been in the training business for 30 years, and he said Saturday was one of the biggest days of his career, and rightfully so. To be able to train a horse that was basically sold for $25,000. He's won over, I think, $150,000 now with this filly. And then to get Lone Sailor and the connections of the Benson management and ownership group back to Kentucky. I don't know what kind of chance Lone Sailor's got in the Kentucky Derby. He's going to be a real long shot. But just getting in the starting gate is quite an achievement. And I know how happy Greg Bensel, Dennis Lauscha, Ben Hales, Mike Stanfield, they were all out there celebrating. They were on cloud nine. Even though they ran second, you'd have thought they won the race. And for Tom Amos, it's another chance to get the Kentucky Derby victory. He was a neck short of winning his first Louisiana Derby, won his first Fairgrounds Oaks. So that'll be another trip now for everybody in the local media. And the local media,
going to Louisville,
they were all ecstatic, getting a chance to go back to Kentucky Derby and report on the Bensons for Lone Sailor and his chances of winning the Kentucky Derby. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Hour 2 went by fast.
Did.
And we will be back in the saddle tomorrow. We'll hear from Larry Holder again tomorrow. Want to thank him for checking in from Orlando. Want to thank Sean Fazan for checking in from Orlando. And if you missed the program, you can always find it on Sports 1280, iHeartRadio. We will have our podcast up and on NOLA.com as well, recapping our program.
And maybe some bad medicine.
Gosh, you've really derailed it. All right, that's it for Dunc and Holder today. We'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you join us. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We'll see you tomorrow.
Here's today's tax tip. User-friendly software.